The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with Future Tech Podcast. My guest today is Timothy Suggs, Head of Biz Development at Expanse Tech and Token Labs. Timothy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming. Yeah. So, there's two companies involved here. Let's start with Expanse, and then tell me what they do, and then tell me about Token Labs.
Yeah. So Expanse is probably most closely compared to the application developer consensus. Expanse also has a blockchain, the first surviving fork of Ethereum. So we develop decentralized applications, and we have our own blockchain to deploy them on.
Okay. And Token Labs, same thing?
Token Lab is one of our applications, and Token Lab runs on the Expanse blockchain, and it is a platform where we issue tokens and go through the whole management of the ICO process with our clients.
And you said it was, the first fork of Ethereum, or one of the earliest forks of Ethereum?
That's correct. Expanse is the first surviving fork of Ethereum. We came out just a couple of months after Ethereum did, back in 2015.
So this may be a stupid question, but so are your tokens, do they follow the ERC20 protocol, or are they different because you're a fork?
We have a different structure to our tokens, but they're very similar to the ERC protocol. Recently, we actually introduced a standard called the ERC 644, which is what Token Lab will be. The tokens for Token Lab will be ERC 644 tokens, which are backwards compatible to the ERC 20 tokens. And what they offer is the ability to be upgraded. So that's what the ERC 644 does.
Okay. So what are some of the projects that you guys are shepherding? Who's creating tokens and why? I know it's probably a big question, but who's been working with you?
Yeah, so right now we have several clients in the pipeline. We have 3 that have been announced. The first one is Check-In. They are a mobile application project where they want to bring blockchain technology to their existing application. Our second one is the Pretorium Group. They are known as PAX, P-A-X. They'll have the PAX coin. They are going to be New York's first coin that is crowdfunding to acquire property in New York, and actually it's quite a massive undertaking with future development of offering a debit card and just working crypto into areas that crypto is not present.
So okay, all right, interesting. Of the projects that chosen to have you guys create the token for them and get everything running, which ones are interesting to you? And maybe go a little deeper into them.
Sure. There's another one that we are working with called Dropped, and they are a music platform who are aiming to disrupt the whole music space, allowing artists to get connected with their fans in a different format than is currently available, and doing so by having a token and creating incentives on the platform where listeners can get rewarded for sharing great artists.
Oh, they get rewarded with the particular token? Is that how they get rewarded?
Correct, yes.
So, okay, what can they use the token for instance?
They'll be creating their own ecosystem on their platform. I have yet to see the specifics of the utility of the token, but I know that it will have a strong utility use.
Okay. So your whole premise is to help companies create a token or do an ICO and shepherd them through the process. I'm sure you get a lot of interest, and you only pick certain projects. So, what kind of people are coming to you with what ideas, and which ones do you tend to work with, and which ones do you tend to turn away?
Well, you're right. We get a lot of people reaching out. They'll send over a white paper, ask us to read the white paper and see what we think about their idea. There's so many good ideas out there. We do see quite a few. And, it just takes more than an idea. So what we look for is, do they look like they have the capacity to pull this off? Do they have the team? Do they have the experience? Do they have the funding? Launching a token now and having an ICO, it's a very either time-consuming and or expensive process to get noticed. So we really encourage people to make sure that you are adequately funded even for this process. So that's been the biggest limitation that I've seen is people just not having the financial ability to get the exposure for selling out and meeting their goals.
Well, what kind of exposure do they need? Marketing exposure, or what?
Yeah. I mean,
a big enough base of clients.
Yeah, I mean, with crypto, I feel like you've got two routes to go. You can go, the private investor, and you can go the community route. We encourage people to put strategies together for both. Go after the institutional money, as well as establish deep roots, build your community, go to existing crypto communities and educate. And if I feel like if it is a good product and the team looks like they can pull it off, then these things sell themselves.
Well, what are you seeing the most successful companies do? Are they going to both, or it seems like everyone's in love with crowdfunding and ICOs and all that right now, but it looks like it could be problematic regulation-wise. So what do you? I don't know if it's advice, or what's your advice?
My advice is to go straight to the influencers. Identify the influencers in crypto, in your segment of crypto, whatever solution you're trying to bring into this world. Try to identify the people that can help you get it out there. Sometimes it makes sense to bring some of these people on as advisors, but those are the relationships that are best to establish early on. And ask for honest feedback. I like that approach because I like trying to get influencers involved in the project. And again, I think that's how you maybe take a good idea and make it better.
Okay. So the influencer, gotcha. So what's planned for the next 6 months or a year with Token Labs and Expanse? What new projects are you going to be working on? Anything that you can comment on that's public?
Sure. So Token Labs is going to be a big undertaking. Once we get into some further phases, we hope for it to be a place where people come to look around and shop for opportunities. So we're going to offer, like a marketplace and hope to have an exchange as well. So in time, we see it being a much more dynamic project than what it is today, which is just the service offering. Expanse in general, Expanse is essentially a DAO, and we are working to put some components together to get the community more involved in the project. So that's pretty exciting. That should you should start seeing some announcements coming out over the coming months regarding that.
Do you think that regulation will affect any of your past projects negatively? Do you have to keep on with these companies and make sure that they're executing on their roadmaps and once they get past the ICO stage, or are you not really involved after that?
We are trying to look out for everyone's best interest as best we can. We do have a vetting process. It's non-legal, non-binding, but it's just based on really just trying to get into the intent of the project and make sure that we feel like people that are looking to launch on our platform are ethical and not trying to pull any kind of a scam. Later on with Token Lab, also what it will offer is crowdsourced underwriting. So there will be like more of an official vetting process where some of these projects can be scored and such by. We're hoping to attract people from Wall Street to get involved. We've actually had some discussions already with a group, so they were interested in learning more.
Yeah, well, where do you see things heading over the next 6 months or a year? With I know it's hard to comment, but on regulation, on the tokens that are going to be coming, any new use cases coming you're seeing?
As far as regulation, you can argue both sides of that. I don't like to see anyone get scammed, and at the same time, I don't like anyone telling me what to do. But if regulation is coming, which we know it is, I just hope that it's fair, and I hope that it does keep the people with bad intents out, and it does allow innovation to continue.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. So what if I was interested in creating a token and working with Token Labs or Expanse, what kind of criteria is necessary that you evaluate to see whether you can work with me or not, for instance?
Well, as you ask that question right now, we do go and pick and choose which projects we are going to work with simply because we have limited bandwidth as we offer this as a service. In the future, what we're building behind the scenes is the software that will manage this for us. And so we won't have the same scaling issues. And so anyone would be able to build a token. We will have a protocol in place to evaluate to make sure that, again, it's to our best knowledge, there's no one that's with bad intentions launching tokens. But other than that, if you can, if you want to launch a token, we'll have a nominal fee for the service, and we'll handle the rest.
What's involved in the process, that people may not know about? Developers just have this idea, they want to do a token, they want to raise money, but what kind of surprises are in store for them that you know of because you've gone through this process a bunch of times?
The two biggest surprises, I guess, are people just not realizing either how much time or how much money it's going to take up front to get noticed. Oftentimes I have people come and, they just think that all they have to do is create the token and people are just going to give them millions of dollars. And that's just simply not the case. It's gotten very competitive in the token space. So paying for eyeballs has gotten more expensive as well. So definitely the upfront marketing to be discovered is the biggest surprise. Another thing I hear a lot is people asking about, getting listed on exchanges, and they look for us to assist with that. And, simply put, exchanges have to work directly with the token provider. So that's just another thing, or I guess a misconception, is that there are entities that can kind of get you listed on exchanges, but that just doesn't seem to be the case.
Oh, but you don't tend to handle that part of it?
We advise, and that's where we draw the line.
Okay, gotcha. Ballpark, what could it cost to successfully run an ICO nowadays?
If you're going to be contracting out the experts to assist primarily in strategy and marketing, you could easily spend $250,000 just on that component, just depending on the complexity of what type of legal consultation you'll need to receive. That also could be a very costly process. So, I would say conservatively, if you're looking to do something major, it could be upwards of, $20,000 to start. And that's if you have friends who are attorneys and maybe neighbors who are into media production and marketing. But other than that, I've seen hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent on launching a token or creating an ICO.
Wow, I didn't realize that has the price come up a lot recently, or has it kind of always been like that?
I guess it just depends on where you draw the line. Because, like, for example, with some of the legal considerations, determining where to establish your entity could be a several $100,000 expense. So it just depends on exactly where you draw the line and allocating funds for the token launch, because it does bleed over into other areas like corporate structure and things like that.
Yeah, where are you seeing that the up-and-coming ICO launches are housing their companies? Any particular countries in particular, or a lot the U.S., very little the U.S., Suggs, Switzerland, where are they?
Right. We're seeing few in the U.S. The countries we're seeing the most are Singapore, Switzerland, British Virgin Islands. Each of them have their own advantages and disadvantages and requirements. So, there's not like a one-size-fits-all.
Any interesting trade-offs that you know of from various countries?
Nothing comes to mind. Other than just sometimes you get lower corporate tax liability.
Okay. Well, very good. How long does the process take, if someone wants to do an ICO from concept to the actual ICO itself? How long does it take to shepherd them through the process?
It just depends on where they are in the process, but even if they're ready to go, it could take 4 months from, just planning the date, having a countdown period to build some of the awareness and some of the hype that's required to meet some of these lofty goals that the projects have. And then, the actual various phases of the sale, you may have 2 to 3 rounds of the sale priced at different points. So 4 months is I think a good length of time to consider for a launch.
What about existing companies that want to tokenize various things that they do? Do you work with many existing companies that they're interested in blockchain, they want to tokenize some aspect of their service or product, and do you consult with those kind of companies?
Well, we will certainly consult with anyone. We have had a few groups, and we primarily reach our demographic from going to conferences all over the world, and we'll have conversations there. I think the biggest thing right now is just people becoming aware of the blockchain, and so because when you actually get to a company like Expanse and Token Lab, you're pretty well versed in what blockchain can do, and you've already started putting your ideas to your expertise to realize how you can bring blockchain into that universe. So just the awareness of letting people know about blockchain and what you can do with smart contracts. I think some of the conferences and conversations we've had in the months past are still kind of being seeds in people's heads. And actually, I got an email today from someone from a conference 2 months ago who is in a home mortgage. He has a home mortgage business, and he's looking to integrate blockchain technology into that. So to me, that's just exciting. Is just trying to educate people as much as possible, and then have them, use their industry expertise to fuse over to some kind of new market.
Any large enterprise interests that have contacted you, or that you're going to be working with, or are they, I don't know, kind of fishing in different ponds in New York?
Well, no, that's what's surprising. When I was in New York at the FinTech Week conference, had a conversation with Fuji, and they're exploring blockchain technology. So that was probably the largest company to date that I've had a conversation with.
Any particular industries that seem to be faster moving than others, or maybe the laggards? And from what you've seen, which ones are like the ones fiending for blockchain technology the most? If you don't know that, which ones are you tending to get? Are there any clusters of industries that, all of a sudden we're getting a lot of real estate people?
Right. Yeah, right now I'm not seeing an influx in any one area. Nothing's even coming to mind because it seems like every single conversation has been with something different.
Okay, so it's across the board, but that tells us different information, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I go to all kinds of conferences, whether they're industry conferences, tech conferences, fintech. So I talk to a lot of different types of people, and it's just.
Are you seeing awareness of blockchain spreading beyond the crypto enthusiast industry? Are there any other industries again that seem to be picking it up more than others? Fintech seems like the most natural one and the earliest one. Right. But you said you go to a lot of conferences. Any ones you've been to that you were surprised they knew anything about blockchain or had an interest?
I would actually answer the opposite way of your question, which is the areas I'm seeing where people are not familiar with blockchain, areas that you would assume they would be familiar. So I was at Disrupt in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago and spoke to 3 different gaming companies, and none of them were familiar with blockchain technology. So that to me was a bigger surprise. An area that I am seeing, now that I think about it, maybe more interest than others is the AI space. It's we've probably had more conversations with anyone else with groups in various areas of AI wanting to use blockchain technology.
Yeah, why would it lend itself to AI type applications, you think?
For these particular projects, it was just about the transparency and creating marketplaces. So it made perfect sense.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, yeah, we'll So last thing I want to ask you is how can listeners get in touch with Token Labs or Expanse, and if they have an idea they want to pitch to you and get your help for their ICO, where do they go?
Yeah, so we're very active in both our Slack channels and Discord, as well as reaching out through the website, tokenlab.io, and Expanse is expanse.tech. We'd be glad to listen to any ideas that you have, or if you want to get involved in the community, let us know that as well.
Okay, well, very good. Well, I appreciate being on the podcast. The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com. You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.